around £30 billion is lost due to sleep deprivation.
They are alarming numbers. Rather than getting to the point of burnout and then trying to deal with it at that point, but actually creating and building an open culture in an organization.
They want to continue working for their firm, but in actual fact, a culture of sleep and good sleep hygiene is just not an option.
Sacrificing sleep means less productivity.
I do want to play devil's advocate here.
The impact of sleep and achieving enough deep sleep on productivity and focus and concentration and memory is massive.
If I have a bad night's sleep, I can feel worse than if I'm ill. Sleep deprivation is costing businesses billions, yet many workplaces still overlook its impact. The legal industry runs on high stakes and high accountability. Deadlines don't wait, mistakes aren't an option, so sleep, it's often the first thing to go. Today I'm sitting down with adult sleep expert Maryanne Taylor. She's been featured on Sky News, Channel 4 and Channel 5. Maryanne reveals how small shifts can transform the way lawyers sleep, boosting energy, focus and performance. So Maryanne, on your website, it says that around £30 billion is lost due to sleep deprivation, and 1 in 3 adults in the UK are affected by sleep problems. What would you say employers can do to help reduce this?
These are stark numbers, aren't they? They are alarming numbers.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies are beginning to understand and to recognize and to incorporate certain things into their well-being provision. But there's more to be done. So first of all, it's about learning to recognize signs, learning to see that there are signs there. So a lot of people tend to, certainly people that have ongoing sleep problems and chronic sleep problems, they can cover it up for a while. They can plod on, they can power through. And in so many professions, the legal profession being one of them, this is the case where people just power through and they're not necessarily at their best self and their most productive self. But eventually that comes up. There are signs, and they might be subtle. It might be that the person who was absolutely top of their game and was able to meet all deadlines suddenly not meeting deadlines in the same way, not being so present at a meeting, not engaging with colleagues or with clients in the same way. There are subtle signs. So it's about organizations really being mindful of subtle signs, but also the support that they offer and creating, and this is really important, is creating a culture almost within an organization of approachability, of openness, of non-judgmental, of encouraging employees to be able to say and flag up when things aren't brilliant, and not shying away from it and not encouraging the power through. So people feel more empowered to be able to, first of all, bring to their line managers they're struggling and they're challenging, whether that's sleep or any other aspect of their mental health. And therefore, what the knock-on effect of that is to be able to catch these people before they get to the point of burnout, before they reach burnout. So rather than getting to the point of burnout and then trying to deal with it at that point, but actually creating and building a culture, an open culture in an organization to support people before they get to that point is hugely beneficial. Obviously, it's going to create a whole different environment, and not to mention the motivation and the productivity and the focus and all of that that will support people with.
Absolutely. I think it's a very difficult topic because, firstly, the employee needs to want to improve their sleep and get that support. And it's difficult for employers if an employee isn't sleeping and then their productivity levels are dipping, their motivation is dipping, and quality of work is dipping as a result. But you can't really say to someone, have a better night's sleep or don't go out or these things. I think it's really difficult, but I have actually found personally that if I've had a bad night's sleep, and I always try to have a good night's sleep, I make it a priority actually. If I have a bad night's sleep, I can feel worse than if I'm ill. And it's like you can't not go to work because, oh, I had a bad night's sleep, but you can if you're ill, It's weird.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is interesting, you say that with the sort of the label of, no, I'm tired. I'm not sick, I'm tired. Many of us are tired, and there are times when you are going to be tired, and it does cross over a little bit where people feel so tired that they do feel ill. They're not sure what the ill is. When you're very tired, you can feel a little bit ill from it. So, but as I said before, I think what is important is to just, for organizations, people in HR, employers, line managers, to just be mindful a little bit of these subtle signs. And even just on a casual approach to a particular employee, not demanding and not saying, why aren't you this, and not accusatory, but actually just opening a little bit to say, I've noticed that you've been coming in late, or you've been struggling with certain situations, and I just wanted to check in with you and check if there's anything that I can support you with. Just that. And also, as you mentioned before, it is often hard to, first of all, recognize that is a sleep problem is impacting in other ways, and it impacts on so many different ways, ways that often people don't even realize that it's actually down to their sleep that they're struggling to concentrate, or they're struggling to focus or engage. But even just having those doors opened a little bit by a line manager and employer can be exactly what somebody needs to have that recognition, and to kind of notice, okay, actually, do you know what, I think it is my sleep, I'm not sleeping well, and now I realize that that's probably contributing to why I'm feeling like this.
Definitely. I do want to play devil's advocate here because I can just imagine, I'm just thinking of the flip side, and I can imagine a lot of lawyers, particularly the ones who work for huge firms, would turn around and say, but our sleep is not supported within our firm because, for example, we're encouraged to work till the early hours of the morning to finish cases, for example. We have the firm organises taxis to take us if the tube or buses stop running at, 3 o'clock in the morning, for example. And a lot of firms, big firms, have sleep pods where it's an option for you to sleep at the firm overnight. So, what do people do in those sorts of scenarios where they want to continue working for their firm, but in actual fact, a culture of sleep and good sleep hygiene is just not an option?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely the case. I've definitely come across a lot of that.
Yeah,
Um, I would say, I mean, look, we can't swoop in and say to an organization, I mean, it would be great to be able to say, look, you need to manage this better, and you need to have a cutoff point, and work days need to be work days, and so on. I mean, that would be great, but it's also not realistic. So I think, for the individual, I would be looking at maybe micro strategies. I'm talking very realistically, right? What is
mhm,
realistic? I'm talking more realistically than as a general, as a sleep consultant, and what I would recommend as a sleep consultant overall to improve your sleep. So look at micro strategies, things like short breaks during the day to reset a little bit. Okay, so, and I really hope that anyone listening wouldn't be saying, there isn't 5, 10 minutes out of my day, I don't have 10 minutes in my day. I would really hope that you could find 10 minutes in your day to step back, reset a little bit, go outside for a quick walk, listen to something, move away, not scrolling for 10 minutes. I'm not talking about Instagram checking. I'm talking about really stepping back a little bit to breathe. And that's not lunchtime in front of the computer. I'm talking about a complete reset for 10 minutes, and have these micro breaks during the day. Okay, I know it sounds like very basic, but you would be amazed at the difference that that can make. First of all, to maintain energy and focus for longer, for longer than a lot of other people need to. So to keep going for longer, to give that brain, your brain, that chance to just relieve a little bit of the buildup of mental pressure, which is so common in this situation, is that we're just building and building and building, and you get to the point at 2 o'clock in the morning after you've built throughout the day without a single break, or a single chance to be able to just have any kind of relaxation at all. And then for so many people, they struggle to get to sleep at that point. So incorporating a few short breaks in the day and being mindful of this. Also, I talked before and I'll mention again here about the permission and allowing yourself the permission. So whether this is pressure that you've put, self-induced pressure that you feel that you've got to keep going and going and powering through, and you can't step off that wheel at all. I just can't believe that is the case. There isn't a situation where you can actually say, and I understand it's a very tricky balance between what you perceive is what you should be doing and the pressure of the environment that you're working in. It is a tricky one. But the permission to say, do you know what, I am drawing a line under it now. And even though it's not finished or whatever, I'm allowing myself that time because I have to. I have to. The impact of sleep and achieving enough deep sleep on productivity and focus and concentration and memory is massive. And so often, sacrificing sleep means less productivity. So if you look at the bigger picture and you're looking at a mindset, and it's the case also for teenagers who are cramming for exams, is I just need to keep going and going and going to cram more in. But actually, what I would recommend in that situation for teenagers is, if you give yourself that clear cutoff point, you would be amazed at how much better you can manage to do, rather than your memory will retain things more easily if you've achieved enough deep sleep. It's not a perfect solution. One other thing I do want to mention is about being strategic with light exposure. So I mentioned before about dimming things down in the evening as much as possible and using the blue light blocker, but also added to that, morning light exposure, which is really important to help us reset a little bit. Also to help so if you're working until very late and you have to get up early and then you're obviously feeling quite groggy in the morning, if you can get some light exposure, ideally it would be natural light if possible, but if not, then not. Certainly in the winter months that's more difficult, but having that light exposure can help stop the production of melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. But during the day, if there's still some residual melatonin, that contributes to us feeling more groggy and less focused, and also gives us an increase of a boost almost of cortisol as well. So morning light exposure can be very helpful as well, even if you don't totally feel like it.
I think they're really realistic tips for sure. That's really, really helpful.
I got into it through my own mad obsession. I mean, so I personally, I've had a long history, I would say, with sleep. As a young adult, I had chronic fatigue, and back then there was very little available, very little information, no internet. I'm really showing my age now, but very little information available and very little support available. And I really struggled. I really had a difficult time. And it took quite a long time for me to be able to get back to some semblance of a normal working life. And I was in my early 20s, so it was very challenging. So I've always been very interested in the field of sleep, but I never worked in it. I worked in a completely different in marketing and conferences. I then fast forward and I had my first baby, and unfortunately that baby wasn't a brilliant sleeper, and again I found it very, very challenging. So I started to do what I do and started to read up a lot about sleep, and I became really interested, to the point, as I said, of obsession. And I decided this was an area I found really, really fascinating. And I delved into it in a lot more detail. And I decided then to train as a certified, at the time, child sleep consultant, because that was where my life was at the time. So I got my certification and I worked for many years as a child sleep consultant, helping families with their children's sleep problems. And more through the years, that people kept asking me, adults kept asking me about their own sleep problems, notwithstanding children, but their own sleep problems. So as I got older, I found this more and more relatable myself, what with menopause, and then I had cancer, which impacted as well very much on my sleep patterns. And so I then decided to go again and become certified as an adult sleep consultant, which is where it brings me to where I am today. I now my main focus is on teenagers and adults with chronic sleep problems. So it's been a bit of a journey, I guess, and it's sort of mirrored where I've been at in my life to some extent as well. But an interesting one, and it's an interesting time to be involved in this work, in this space as well, what with the focus very much on mental health and the importance of mental health. It's a great time to be in this area.
Definitely. And a very important time as well. You do a very important job. Would you like to tell people how you work with people if they need your expertise?
Absolutely. So I work with people one to one. I have a program, it's called the ABC program, that is over an 8 week period where we delve into not just sleep, but lots of different factors that might be impacting on your sleep. So if you are somebody who has been struggling for a long time with sleep, you feel like you've tried lots of different things, as people often do who have struggled for some time. They feel like they've tried so many different things, but nothing's actually helped. Then come to me. But I also do a lot of corporate work. I give a lot of sessions in corporate organizations, law firms as well, on sleep and on different aspects relating to sleep. So I talk about menopause and sleep, habits, stress and anxiety, all those different factors that impact on sleep as well. And I also run sleep clinics within organizations as well, which is one-to-one support. So often I would do a session and that would follow with a sleep clinic for one-to-one more personalized guidance and help.
Amazing. I love the sound of all of that. It's so, as I say, it's so vital and so important for individuals and companies. What's the best way for people to contact you?
My website is thesleepworks.co.uk. That's all one word. Or I'm on LinkedIn, so you can look me up on LinkedIn, Maryanne Taylor. And all my contact details are there, so you can check that out.
If you've ever wondered how to build a legal career that fits your lifestyle and values, I've created something for you. 25 Ways to Do Law Differently and Get Paid for It is a free guide filled with simple yet impactful ideas for lawyers who want more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment in their work. Just go to the description where you'll find the link.